In a coffee shop, in a city, which is every coffee shop in every city, on a day, which is every day. Hello, friends. Welcome to the third episode of Barista Unfiltered, a podcast dedicated to the life and times of baristas. They tell us what's brewing in their lives and work in this free-flowing and unfiltered podcast. I'm Jodie Lee.
And I'm Austin Miller.
And we are your hosts, and we are so grateful you've joined us for yet another episode. Today, our guest is Bryan Harrelson. He's a former barista who currently lives in San Francisco. Austin and Bryan have been friends for over 25 years, and I think I've known Bryan for somewhere around 15 years. As you'll soon understand, Bryan is a dynamically talented person with a ton of enviable creative energy that he allows to flow freely on a daily basis. I've made a list of questions to ask him, just like I do with all of our guests. But truly, I have no big idea anyway, for any narrative in particular today. We're just going to go along for the ride. And I promise you, it's always fun when Bryan's involved. Later on, we're also going to check in with Jake Schell, as we plan to every week on our podcast. And we're going to get an update on his roasting business. They've made some big progress recently, and he'll tell you all about it. First, we get to hear from Bryan. Welcome to the podcast, friend.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
First thing we're all wanting to know is, what kind of coffee did you have this morning?
So I start most of my days with a baby iced latte. So I have a little Nespresso machine at home and just pour a couple shots into cold milk, some ice, and a straw is very necessary as well.
Okay.
Although illegal.
They're compostable straws.
Is it glass or paper?
No, it's like that corn stuff. So it's
okay.
hard. I can't do the paper straws.
I have been making that same drink a lot lately here at home.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about your process. Do you tell me, so walk me through it. You pour the espresso. How do you combine?
Actually, I have a little ball jar. So I pour the cold milk into the ball jar and then set it right under the Nespresso and pour the espresso directly into the cold milk.
Uh-huh.
And then once both shots have been poured, I'll add ice and a straw.
Okay. So it goes milk, espresso, ice.
Yep.
And does it matter what kind of ice you use?
I prefer the big cubes. Not like super big cubes, but not crushed.
Not crushed. Never
Not
crushed.
Not
Why?
for me. It just melts too quickly.
And it turns the
down.
beverage watery.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I think there's a skill to this. I watch all kinds of baristas make an iced latte just to see like how they combine it.
Yeah.
Everyone does it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Austin, when you make an iced beverage, how do you do it?
Well, I used to be of the mind that you added the ice last, but now instead, because I thought that it made the ice like watery and it would make the drink watery, but now I kind of do it differently. Actually, I add the ice first, but I add a bunch of ice and then I put the milk and then I pour the espresso on, but I always stir it, and that like distributes the temperature throughout, and it doesn't end up watery that way. So that's the way I do it now. And also for speed's sake, it's a lot better if you're super busy.
To stir it?
No, to add the ice first. And I think that's just like particular to our layout at Spikes as well, because you're kind of like, it's such a small space that you don't want to like have to walk past somebody to go get the ice.
Plus, adding ice after there's milk can be messy.
Messy, yes.
Because it splashes everywhere.
Yeah.
No. Oh my gosh, so many dilemmas. Okay, let's get to it. When I first met you, which was a decade or so ago, you're working as a barista at a coffee shop that is still my personal favorite in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, called Cafe Driotti. Was that your first barista job? What got you interested in coffee? Tell us, what got you there?
So it wasn't my first barista job. My first barista job was at the Daily Grind, which Austin here actually got the job for me. I can't remember the specifics if I was unemployed at the time. I think I was working at Aurora, that Italian restaurant. Was that when that was happening? Or no? I don't know why I needed work, but I needed work. And Austin was working at a coffee shop called The Daily Grind in the middle of UNC Chapel Hill's campus. And we had just met, actually.
Yep.
And they just happened to...
Can you tell that story?
So you had just lost your job at Gary's Groovy Goods.
Oh, okay.
Due to a breakup.
Yeah. That's why I was unemployed, because
he worked and dated his boss, which is a big fucking mistake.
and I worked for my boss's parents. Yeah. So that all kind of crashed down all at once.
Now the timeline is making sense.
Yeah. And I actually think I met Austin in another Cafe Trio on Franklin Street. Was the first time I ran into him there, and we just had mutual friends, and that's how we connected. Yeah. The night lasted a long time.
We have pictures.
There may have been. Never mind. I don't know what we're allowed to talk about and not talk about.
I don't know what we're allowed to talk about either. We're just creating this podcast. You're going to take it off the rails, and we don't even have rails.
Yeah, you're going to get banned from YouTube. Episode 3.
We might have to build the rails after this conversation. So you guys met, you became friends, and then Austin is at Cafe Driotti, and he hires you there?
No, that's at the Daily Grind.
Is
where we worked at that place together first.
And I had no power there. I did not hire him. I just recommended him for the job. Okay. And he got hired.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we've zero power.
We've worked at several coffee shops together over 25 years.
I think we're going on like 4 or 5. Actually.
Definitely at least 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell me about Cafe Driotti. What was that like for you? What do you remember of that place?
It was just amazing. It's still my favorite coffee shop too. I mean, the setting was just incredible. And looking back, especially, you can see how basically, you just got paid to hang out with all your friends. So your friends came to see you, they tipped you, and you hung out and drank coffee. There was beer and wine. I mean, it was, I appreciated it then, but looking back, you're like, wow, it was really kind of special. I mean, it was incredible. You got to pay to do something that you love and hang out with all your friends and in this beautiful setting.
Yeah.
Nothing like it really.
I kind of feel that way too. I've traveled a lot and I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
So
it's nice sharing it with this guy.
I have to ask about the gay nights at Driotti because Austin mentioned them in episode 1 and you were working there at that time. Did you participate in those? You want to tell us about them?
Yeah, it was.
I would say Bryan started it. Honestly, it was his idea. So it was every Wednesday night we would do it.
Because we got put on the schedule together and it was a Wednesday night. And I was just trying to brainstorm of ways that we could just have more people come in to make more money. And we decided to kind of just host a gay night, and it took off. There'd be sometimes where it was standing room only inside.
Yeah. On a Wednesday night.
And you couldn't find a seat. And yeah, it was amazing. And it was, people of all ages. So it was people who were older, who were, locals, down to, students.
Little newly freshman twinks.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
The twinks? It's just a little, it's kind of what you call a gay baby.
It's just a young, skinny, hairless boy.
All right. We're learning in the language here. Yeah. Did you like working as a barista?
I love it. Yeah, I did it for... probably 15, 16 years, and I would go back to it in a heartbeat. Yeah, it's great work. I just love seeing people regularly. It's the perfect amount of time to flirt with somebody because you only have to be witty for 3 minutes. Right. And they have an excuse to come see you again.
And you have what
if they're interested, and I have what they want. So yeah, I think it's incredible work. Like I said, I would go back to it in a minute.
Yeah. So these days you're working in a lot of different ways. First of all, I mean, you're just creative all day long, it seems. Being your friend on Facebook is an adventure for me on a daily basis of what in the world are you up to. but you're doing massage therapy, you're doing yoga instruction, and sort of this creative persona you call K Color. So tell us about your all of your careers and how you got into being a massage therapist and a yoga instructor.
I guess I can kind of start from when I moved to San Francisco. So we moved to San Francisco together about 11 years ago. And I did start out in coffee when I moved here. I actually worked for Starbucks because I knew I could get the money. And I was super worried about, paying, affording to live here. So I started out working out at Starbucks. I went to Ritual, which is a super popular local coffee shop here. Then we worked together again at Coffee for the People. And then we worked together at Spikes as well. But after a while, when I moved here, I actually went right into a yoga training. And so that's when I learned to be a yoga instructor. But it kind of takes a while for you to kind of like build and, start to be able to pay your bills with it. So I went into yoga. And then to kind of supplement my income, I learned to be a massage therapist as well, which I know you are as well. And they just worked really well. They went hand in hand together. So that's kind of been my career, since I've been here. And then San Francisco is just an incredible place. The thing I would say about San Francisco is you can figure out who you are. You can try whatever without fear of repercussion. And so I kind of started getting into drag because drag's a super popular art form here. I started out kind of like comedic and then it kind of moved into, I would say, playing with being a deity. So it kind of got, a little spiritual and out there. And now it's kind of landed in a clown place. And I just I love playing with color. My character's name is K Color, which is actually my mom's name. Go into that if we want to, but yeah. I don't have mother issues. Thanks for asking.
Really?
Yeah, so my mom's name's K Color. So it was, kind of, it was an interesting, weird tribute to her. We weren't super close, so it was kind of a way of creating this relationship with her and almost kind of imagining her if she didn't have kids, because my mom's super creative. I get all of my style from her. She was always into colors and patterns and but she was a mom, so she had a lot of responsibilities. So in a lot of ways it's this what if she didn't have kids, what could she have done? And so, but yeah, I spent a lot of time gluing crystal. I do a lot of crystals. I do a lot of tulle. I do a lot of fringe. And yeah, now I'm really just kind of going out and dancing. I also have done some photo shoots as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just so many different art forms in one. So it's makeup, it's hair.
Your exploration of this drag character, K Color, is all about your mom. Has your mom seen that show? Has she seen you perform?
She has. She's not the biggest fan. The only thing she's ever really said is you look good as a blonde. So.
But you knew that already. So she doesn't find it particularly inspirational.
Well, I did a couple of, sexy numbers, and I think that's when she was like, I can't watch. Yeah. And then now I just don't think they really get it, the clown drag, Yeah.
Yeah, we probably have a lot of listeners, I'm guessing, who've never seen a drag show. I've never seen one until, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago when I was visiting with Austin out in San Francisco, and he took me to a drag show right there in the Castro, and I was just blown away.
I think she met Honey Mahogany that night, right?
I did. I could not believe the amount of artistic, creative energy that was in the room. I guess I just always thought drag was about putting on a makeup and a wig and trying to be a woman, but it's so much more than that. It's kind of like going to a museum, but the art is the people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so many different outlets. It's hair, it's makeup, and then if you do a theatrical kind of performance, you storyboard, you make your props. Like it's kind of boundless, especially here in San Francisco. It definitely runs from female impersonation to I don't even know what you'd call it, monster drag.
Now, are any of your performances up on YouTube or anything?
I do have
So
a YouTube channel.
We could probably put some of that in the show notes, so if people are interested in listening to the interview and they wanna click on and see some of your performances, they could do that.
Some of those sexy ones I talked about.
Yeah. Now they're probably really curious what that means.
Yeah, I would totally suggest everybody check that out because it is way more interesting than whatever it is you're thinking about. Now when I go to big cities, like I went to Kansas City to visit a friend last year and there was a drag show and I was like, we have to go to that. We have to see it. I'd love to see drag everywhere I go now.
It's super fun.
And it can differ by city, like a lot of like in North Carolina, there was a big night, the Trailer Trash Prize night that kind of reflected, North Carolina and North Carolina's take on drag. So depending on where you go, you're going to find it's a lot different.
Yeah. How is it in Denver?
Oh, and I haven't really looked here. I should check.
There's a rumor that a girl from there is going to be on next season of Drag Race.
Really?
Uh-huh.
I should check that out. Usually when we go to downtown Denver, we're in search of comedy. Like we're going to see Michelle Wolf tonight.
Oh, so, that's amazing. Cool.
Can you imagine after the week we've just had with Brett Kavanaugh getting nominated and appointed to the Supreme Court, what she's going to have to say about all that?
Oh my God.
She's got a lot of ammunition.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. I think she had 5 shows scheduled when she first got here, something like that. They sold out. Now she's having to add additional shows. So anyway,
that's amazing.
Off track here. Let's see. The thing I wanted to know about Kay Color, it's interesting that that's your mom's name. I did not know that story. But when you think of presenting as Kay Color, what is Kay Color like? Is she like you? Is she different? Is there a difference?
I think I just look at her as an extension of me. And a lot of times it's not even her, it's kind of just a non-gendered kind of being. So I can kind of take it in whatever direction. Sometimes I'll shave, sometimes I won't shave.
Sometimes you kind of look like an alien.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when I kind of have my deity character where I'll do like horns. Sometimes I'll paint my face as different colors. But her general vibe tends to be all about just like having a good time and like individual self-expression. I like to coin the phrase, the most subtle drag queen in San Francisco and totally original, references no one, which of course is a joke, but.
So she's more just a vehicle for you to be honest with the world around you and to interact however
and to get attention.
To get attention.
To get attention.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
There isn't. Not if you're into
it. I'm totally into your Kay Color world.
Well, thank you.
So part of your art that I find fascinating is that it's so varied. So one day you're doing a photography shoot as a rainbow geisha who's appears to be on stilts, and then another day you're a giraffe person that's feminine except for you've got a beard. Like you're just always mixing so many different ideas, and I just wonder like where does it all come from, and is it difficult? It seems like you art every day.
Yeah, I have been doing it a lot every single day, and it is super duper time consuming, but I have fallen in love with the process. And I think that's what's important is you just have to enjoy putting a piece of glue down and sticking a stone on it. And somehow I like it. It's, kind of meditative for me. Plus I like creating something out of nothing. And, I want to go out and I don't want to look like anybody else. So yeah, I don't know where the ideas come from. Obviously you do get inspired by other things, but I'll tend to like get a medium, like right now I'm super duper into Swarovskis. So everything I'm just like gluing Swarovskis onto anything. And I try to do something like non-traditional, like a wrestling singlet. something that's typically super duper masculine. And then I'll like glue Swarovski crystals all over to it, and then pair it with a butt plug with Swarovski crystals on it. And
That was memorable.
yeah,
That was memorable, for sure.
That took months to put together.
Don't you sort of love, I know I always sort of monitor your Facebook posts, and you can feel the pause that we take when you go to a new level with what's possible.
Yeah.
There are some images that everyone's like, you'll get 100 likes in about 2 hours. And then there's the butt plug one where everyone's like, let me take a breath. Let me take a moment. I think I like that. Should I like that? Like that's what I love about your art, is that it brings up so many questions, at least in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting for me. Like I just kind of think of it and I do it. There's not a lot of filters. So I just have the idea, and if the idea is appealing to me, then I just kind of go for it. I don't like let worry, and I'm not worrying about how it's going to be received or anything like that. It's just all about, like I said, I fell in love with the process. And
so getting to that place of self-confidence and, lack of caring about criticism, have you always been that way, or was that a process?
No, definitely not.
But you've always had I mean, it surprises me that it took you this long to get into doing all this, because I mean, like I lived with him back when we were like children, basically. I mean, we were not children, but we were in our early 20s, and and
when we were tweaks,
he was always doing stuff like we lived in this apartment complex, and there was like jocks on the other side and gays on the one side. They were like the two apartments faced each other, and he made like rainbow curtains to go in the window and all this kind of. He's always been like crafty. It's just kind of like I guess accelerated since we've been in San Francisco. But it was always there.
My creativity
was the t-shirt bags, the tea bags.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which was super fun. That's how I raised a whole bunch of money to move to San Francisco off of those, actually. It's just evolved. So the creativity has always been there. Like I started out when I was young, I was in chorus, and then I moved into band, and then it evolved to like t-shirt bags. But I think, with this drag, the biggest struggle was, growing up effeminate. Was hard, first kind of like accepting that you're gay. And then, within the gay community, there's still a lot of like prejudice against effeminate guys. And so it's been a process, and I'm nowhere near the end of letting all that go. But San Francisco has just been really kind of good for that. And I've had a lot of good boyfriends that have supported me, that like me, not only despite my femininity, but a lot of times because of it, so learning that like I can be myself, I can be effeminate and still be attractive to other people, it's nice because I like to be attractive to other people. I like to have a boyfriend and all that good stuff. Loved. Exactly.
Especially for exactly what we are, and not some watered down version of who we are.
Yeah, ideally, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Do you keep a record of all your K-Color performances?
I try to. Like, I definitely got a lot of videos in the beginning, and I wish I was a little bit better about just kind of, taking pictures of the entire look. I wish I would have done a little bit better about documenting those. But I obviously can't keep everything because it would just take up too much space. So I'm, having to constantly kind of like get rid of things. I also repurpose things. So they'll start as one thing and I'll add stuff to it and take stuff off. So unfortunately there's not a K-Color museum anywhere, but there's a fair amount of photos and videos that exist, but so much of it is just like tool and safety pins or hot glue. So these aren't like, high fashion quality, looks. They look like they are, but they are not.
They're
So
extremely
half
clever and
the time
homemade.
half the time, parts don't even make it to the bar. Like the other night, my shoulder pads wouldn't stay on. Hats fall off, crash into the cab. So you just kind of have to have that relationship with it.
Have you ever thought about designing for other creatives?
I think that is probably my next step is, as I enter my twilight years. I just had my 42nd birthday the other day. I just go out. I just go out less and less. But I'm so in love with this creativity, and actually I would love kind of working with another. I've always done most stuff on my own, so I would be curious to see, how collaborating with somebody else would inspire me to go in different directions that I normally wouldn't go in.
Mm-hmm.
So I recently did that with a couple of photo shoots. I'm doing this series of being photographed in the same outfit, but with different photographers, and we collaborate on what the photos should look like. So yeah, like the idea of collaborating. It can just be hard to get people together,
Lord, don't we know it?
How long did it take us to get together?
A while, and then to get the computers up and all that.
Exactly.
So other than design, what's up next for you? What are your big ideas?
I had a tough year, and I lost my partner 5 years. I broke my arm, and last year was really a lot of kind of sadness and anger. So I'm kind of just ready to let go of that. I also put on 35 pounds, ready to let go of that. So I'm excited about this year. Like my birthday, everything seemed to kind of like come together. I need to invest in my house. My house needs a new paint job and some redecorating. So I'm going to put K-Color on the shelf for a little bit, because I'm also excited about the holidays. I want to have like our Christmas tree party, and, so what's next for me is just I'm ready to celebrate the holidays, spend time with like friends and family, and then kind of pick it back up and see. I think that collaboration piece is something that I'm super interested in. Not sure exactly how to get it started, but maybe an Etsy store. But I want everything to be one of a kind. So my thing is I don't want to mass market anything. It's all individual, because I just really, my belief is encouraging individuality, so, and also I have a weird relationship with monetizing art.
Yeah.
But it's the world we live in.
Well, if you get that Etsy store started, you just have to tell us the website so that we can put it in the show notes.
Most definitely.
Yeah. I've been sort of tinkering around with some friends about advice. Like, what's the best advice you've ever gotten? What's the best advice you've ever received? Thought about starting to ask our guests that. Have you ever received any advice that stuck with you?
Any advice that stuck with me?
Yeah, something good or bad. I guess you could give me bad advice too.
Get bad advice.
Yeah.
I would say, during my yoga experience, it kind of taught me that like I'm my own best teacher. And I believe, obviously we need people in our lives. We need to bounce things off of people, and we need to listen to other point of views. But I think if you really take that time to tune into your gut and your instincts, so follow your gut, follow your instincts, I would say is, don't overthink it. Like, tune in, take time every day to, meditate, tune into your gut, your belly, and just go for it. Because it's really easy to get in your own way.
I mean, we always know more, and we're always more powerful than we think.
100%.
Yeah. Austin, what about you? Do you have any? Have you ever gotten any really good advice?
Oh my God.
Or do you
I've gotten a lot of advice.
A lot for me. I don't know about good advice.
I think the most helpful advice I remember is when I was 5 years old, my aunt teaching me how to tie my shoes.
That's important. Do you actually remember that?
I do. Isn't that weird? I actually remember the moment I learned how to tie my shoes. My aunt taught me, and she made it somehow like she got through to me and made it something that seemed hard, easy. And sometimes you need that. Like sometimes, and I know that's like bringing it up to like a weird basic level, but sometimes like in your mind, you can set something up as hard and you just need somebody to come along and show you, hey, this isn't that hard. and
like
then,
starting a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's so easy.
Yeah.
Well, the little, I mean, I'm sure it's been hard, but the little individual pieces probably aren't that hard.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of doing it.
Yeah. You just need somebody to come along and spark you and say, hey, this is all you got to do.
Yeah.
You know, let's do it.
Push this button.
Yeah.
Yeah. And two, you know, Austin and I collaborating, we sort of pushed each other along in this process, which has made it a lot more fun to work on. I meant to tell you, Austin, that I met Stuart, you know, Stuart from the Ooptown podcast.
Yes.
He helped us figure out the Google Hangouts and the live stream. So I was at a ukulele academy workshop this weekend, and Stuart was there. It was like seeing a celebrity.
Wow.
Got to thank him in person.
Did he ask you about our podcasts?
Yeah, he said, I want to subscribe to it. And I said, well, it's still, you know, we're going to do 3 episodes before we release. So I told him it'd be soon. He's super excited about it.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have any extra questions for Beyonce, Austin?
You know, I don't. I think we hit on just about everything.
Okay. Well, the last question
But I do think we should check in with them again, like in maybe a year.
Yeah.
Come back in. Yeah. I think people are gonna wanna have some follow up eventually. So.
Always. And before we let you go, we like to ask, like, what are your 3 favorite coffee houses? So obviously, well, I'm not going to answer for you. You tell
me. She wants to, though.
I mean, number 1 has to be Jodie. I mean, if you get a chance to go, it's in Chapel Hill off Franklin Street, and it's just magical. It's set in the middle of the woods. You know, they have beautiful gardens, they have live music, and they have interesting people, both in front of and behind the counter. So I've never kind of experienced anything, you know, like that. The second one would have to be, you know, our first together, the Daily Grind, although it doesn't exist anymore. Rest
in peace, Daily Grind. Yeah, I think it went away about 2 or 3 years ago.
Because it was a special experience. I mean, you know, it was in the center of campus. So basically when classes let out, you had to line out the door. So it was like, if you could work at the Daily Grind, you could work anywhere, because you're never going to have rushes like existed there. And it was so crazy, you know, because we had 2 separate lines, like a coffee line, and we had food and the team, we would just all work together. And then like undoubtedly, like someone would drop an air pot in the middle of the busiest, you know, moment of the day, or somebody would have a mental, I mean, it was nuts, because it was just so intense. You know, somebody would have a breakdown, 2 people would be fighting, like, but somehow we got the whipped cream and the espresso bean on top, and everything was fine. So that would probably be my second, and they're all Chapel Hill locations, because Cafe Trio, which also doesn't exist anymore, but it was legendary in Chapel Hill. I mean, it was like, you know, moving there, going to college. I think that's where I first like saw, like, I know that there are gay people here. Like, it was like, you know, the queer coffee shop. And I eventually got to work there. So that will always, I think that was probably like the first, maybe it was definitely one of the first coffee shops I went to. I probably got like regular coffee and was grossed out as well. For the first year that I worked coffee, I actually didn't even drink coffee. And eventually I hit up the vanilla lattes. But yeah, so, I mean, Chapel Hill just holds a near dear place in my heart, and their coffee shops do too.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love Jodie. It's the place I go every time I'm home. Yeah.
They should sponsor this podcast.
For real? They totally could. You can't buy their beans. I can't figure out how to buy their beans online. Have you mastered that?
I have not tried.
You probably go to Carborough Coffee Roasters.
So I went to their website. It doesn't look like they sell them online.
Hmm.
I know. So you know what I've been thinking about doing is hiring a friend of mine who is a student there just to like go get me some coffee and send it here.
Buy it and send it to you.
Because it is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flat rate box.
Huh?
Just have them send it in a flat rate box.
Yeah. You guys get, what kind of beans are you getting them from? Spikes?
What's the question?
When you make coffee at home and you grind your own beans, are you using them from Spikes?
Well, so I live literally like
2
blocks from where I work. So I only very rarely make coffee at home just because I like to go in and because I'm kind of like monitoring all the baristas there and we all kind of do each other. So I go up and order a coffee there and I also get to sort of like, audition the barista and see how how their drink skills are and that kind of thing. So I usually go up and get my coffee there. Just, I don't know, because I like to go up there and I like to be there when I'm not working.
Yeah.
It just, it makes me like appreciate it from a customer's point of view. So, pretty rarely make coffee at home these days.
Okay. Did you make coffee this morning?
I went to Spike's this morning and I got first I got a cortado and then I got this large coffee that would last me through the duration of our conversation.
Excellent. Well, Beyonce, is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of expanding on what he just said, like I have my Nespresso machine at home, but there's just something about the coffee shop experience. So even though I know I can make it at home, you just want to go out, you want to interact with your barista, you want to see the regulars that are always there and wave. And yeah, I just think,
I mean, we can all make coffee at home. Like, obviously it's not that hard, but I think the reason coffee shops are like thriving and expanding, well, first of all, like, obviously if you have that expensive equipment, the people can do it a lot better out. But I think a huge part of it is just being out and being around other people.
Yeah.
In a non-alcohol context. Yeah. That's one way to do it. And I think that's why it's so popular to this day.
I would agree. It's just, it's about the relationships you have with people and getting you out of your house and off your phone, even if it's just for 5 minutes, you know?
Yeah, we all want to like hang up the internet and get out and like actually see people in person.
Yeah, I mean, people would come up and like I remember at Jodie, they would just like unload. I mean, sometimes you have people crying, because you're their therapist. Sometimes you're the only like person they can like talk to, because they're at work and you have to behave a certain way, but you can kind of come into your coffee shop and be real.
Yeah, we had talked about that. Part of the reason we wanted to start this podcast and feature baristas is the coffee shop, the independent coffee shop, is functioning a lot like a community center these days. Where
Agreed.
People go and gather and meet each other. And I think it actually functions more like a community center than community centers.
Yeah, I used to slip cute boys my phone number. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they wouldn't.
Oh, you miss those days.
Kind of.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
All right. Well, before we wrap up today, we have an update from our friend Jake Schell. You might remember him. He was featured on episode 2 of Barista Unfiltered. He is starting his own roasting business in Lafayette, Colorado. And it's been 2 weeks since we last checked in with him. And the last time we heard from him, they were still looking for a location to set up the roaster so they could get started working with the beans. Today, he's joining us by sound file. And so I'm just going to hook this kind of up toward the microphone and we'll get our take from Jake.
Hello, coffee friends. This is Jake. I thought I would check in and give a little update of what's been going on in the past couple weeks. As of October 1st, we officially have our LLC registered. We found a temporary space to roast with a friend of one of us 3 founders. A friend of Mike is allowing us to use his space to roast in until we can find a more permanent home. We're pretty excited about that. On Sunday, we moved the roaster in and got everything hooked up, minus some electronics that we discovered we needed to be able to hook the roasting software up to the roaster, which I prefer to use so that I can track all the details possible and get to making great coffee as soon as possible and make that repeatable. I want to thank my friend AJ, a few of our friends, Mike, Chris, and also one of the founders' dads, Mike Sr. They all pitched in, let us use a trailer, and hauled the roaster out to our roasting location. On Friday the 5th, we launched our social media, and that's been going pretty great. We've got a lot of excitement already at 200 plus followers 5 days later. Mike is working on website right now. He's put a lot of work into that just in the past few days and gaining a lot of ground to get wholesale options going, get a subscription offering, be able to purchase directly from the website, and eventually be able to buy merch and all kinds of fun stuff from there. Like I said, discovered we didn't have all of the electronics we needed to run the roasting software, so I reached out to San Franciscan to see exactly what we needed, and they were great and have quickly sent out the parts that we need, and we should be receiving those tomorrow, and I will be roasting our first batches on Friday if all of the installation goes well. That's about all of the new news that we have for now, and there's a lot happening every day, so I'll have more updates to come.
Wow, that is impressive. That
Thanks,
he could
Jake.
accomplish.
Virtual recording of Jake.
I know he got all that done in 2 weeks. I'm curious how he got 200 followers on social media in 5 days. Right?
You have to hit him up.
I know we're gonna have to figure that out for our podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as we end this episode, we want to again thank our guest, Bryan Harrelson, for being with us today.
Thanks, Bryan.
Thanks for having me. It was my pleasure.
And thank you to all our listeners for joining us. We would love to hear from you too. Perhaps you know a barista who should be featured on our show. And maybe you've got a question about the coffee industry and want us to interview an expert on that topic. But whatever your thoughts are, send us your big ideas. Our email address is info@baristaunfiltered.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you want to support our podcast, please visit www.patreon.com/baristaunfiltered. You can donate to our podcast in any amount or on any schedule that works for your budget. I'm Jodie Lee.
And I'm Austin Miller.
And we hope you stay caffeinated, friends.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.